Hello and welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the Ask Videomail for the week of August 11th, 2014. Welcome to the site, to you new members, and welcome back to the old members. Don't forget, the Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character, animation, or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it right. Yes! So please send it to webmaster@kennyroy.com. I go through all the questions and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Believe me, if there was, I've already asked it, and it is the best way to get the most out of this site. Sad news. Today, sad news. Robin Williams, obviously comic genius and living legend, passed away today, and he will be very much missed. I pretty much knew Robin Williams as the voice of Batty in Fern Gully, of course, and of the genie in Aladdin. And so a big part of my animation upbringing was the amazing voice talent that he brought to those characters. And so I can't say anything that hasn't already been said, except that he will be missed. And what a sad day. But I'm sure there's a lesson to be learned in there somewhere. I don't know what it is. But let's move on. This week we're going to answer a question, a little bit nice blend of workflow and technical. I think you'll like it. Check it out. Great question. Thanks for sending this one in. Let's go through the certain parts of it. Character sets were first introduced to make it so that you could basically work with multiple characters in a scene, and quickly it was meant to quickly facilitate keyframing certain sets of controllers, or actually channels. It's actually channel sets, really, when it comes down to it. The advantage of those, of course, was that you didn't have to repeatedly reselect all of the controllers or channels that you were trying to key at a time. The disadvantage was that if you were moving around and jumping around in the scene, going in and out of the C sets was a huge pain in the butt. Another problem is if you had a rig that had certain attributes that you were keyframing, and you were working, within the C set, that you were not ready to keyframe, you would get a huge amount of just basically zeroed keys on a bunch of controllers that you would have to go back and then just like start from scratch or delete, even just to get started. So an example would be if you had like finger controllers or whatever in your C set. Then when it came time to go back and go through the animation and work on it again, you'd have millions of keyframes on all your controllers that you'd set, and you didn't really even mean to. So I actually never got into C-sets because I liked the ability to jump around, and I actually did switch to quick select sets very early on. I find that they are actually quicker. Now, if you find that it's slowing down your workflow, you have to stop and ask yourself, is it only slowing down your workflow because you were so used to C-sets that your workflow has yet to catch up to this new workflow? I would say that you should give it a little bit more time, because I made this C-set switch right when they first came out in Maya. I can't remember when they came out. Maybe Maya 5 or 6. Maybe 7. I can't remember. But it was years and years and years ago. And I tried them out, and I said to myself, you know what? I just don't have a workflow right now that can work around all of the extraneous keys that are being created right now. So that brings us to the next part of the question, which has to do with keying on every single controller. So here's the thing. No matter how you do it, either with C-sets or with quick select sets, there is the issue that you have to start thinking about of what do I want to build in that is sort of future-proofing my animation, and what do I want to leave up for chance. And let me explain that concept. This is something that I was just going through with my collaborators, and it's interesting that this was an Ask Videomail question because I'd like to expand on it here. Just FYI. If you have two keyframes, okay, all right, and let's say you have two different channels, okay. If this moment, these two keyframes, now they're the same. That probably was a bad idea. Let me go like this, okay. Now, if this moment, let's just say that this comes through like this, and this one comes through kind of like that, okay? Just whatever. If this moment right here, let me pick a new color. All right, this moment right here is a golden pose. Then that's great, okay? And if this moment right here is a golden pose, then that's great as well. But what happens when you make an adjustment to your pose and you're in a C set? Okay, let me show you what happens. Oops. Okay. Actually, I don't want that. I want this. Okay, still going through these two keyframes. Okay. All right. Let's say you make an adjustment on this frame where you have a key like this. All of a sudden, what happens is this key gets put down because you're working within the C set, right? So this one was adjusted, and this one stays where it is, okay? And that's great and all, but here's another scenario that people sometimes don't think about. How do I delete? I'm just going to make a brand new freaking drawing. Okay. So here's a scenario that sometimes people don't think about, all right? Let's say you don't key on every single frame. Oops, I need to draw. Let's say you don't key on every single frame, okay? Here are a couple of different channels, okay? This looks like, you know, rotate XYZ, all right? Whatever. And you're not working with C-sets again, and you're not keying every single controller, okay? This is what might end up happening. Okay, so you have your three channels, and on this frame, you grab the rotate Z and the rotate Y, and you made an adjustment. Let's say this is a hand controller, and you made just an adjustment on two channels, okay? This snapshot, okay, this is what your pose used to look like, right? Now check this out. This is weird. My eraser doesn't work. Why doesn't my eraser work? This is too weird. All right, I'm just gonna have to go back to the current pencil. What was this one? Okay. If on this frame, okay, you adjust this right here, and let's say this is what you wanted on this frame because it was perfect, but on this frame, you adjust this to down here, what's going to happen? Your new curve is going to be like this, right? It's different, isn't it? So what do? Because you have something totally different, and it's because you didn't set a key on every single frame, which is one of the instances where C sets actually get you a little bit further. All right, here's our old pose, and here's our new pose. Okay, this all comes down to workflow, capital W, workflow. Okay, why? Here's why. Here's why. Take a look at what happens when, for instance, you're the kind of person that, let's say that this is, all the frames, frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this is what you do. Can kind of get a sense of what I'm doing here. Okay, what is this? This is the workflow in which you pose out your animation on just like you come up with 7 poses and then you just put them into Maya. Frame 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, doesn't matter. Why? Because then you're going to select all of those channels and all of those keyframes, and then you're going to time it according to something that's like really extra special. Okay, that's one workflow that I've seen that works very well for professionals. Another workflow, the one that I propose, the one that I teach on this site, Animation with Tempo. Check out the Animating with Tempo lecture. I think you'll really like it. Okay, what do I do there? I key in step mode a helper object that is going basically through the scene in step mode. Okay, so there's no interpolation between these keys, basically making it so that there's no like floatingness. And if all of these keyframes are then gone over with my character rig in step mode in golden poses, it means that I'm actually posing my entire character head to toe, and I'm keying on every single control. Once I go into step mode, am I doing that again? No, I'm not doing that again. Why? Because I know that the only thing that goes when I'm animating with tempo, only thing that goes in between 2 channels are breakdowns and in-betweens. And even my breakdowns, if they're full body, normally I might put a key on every single controller, but not an overwhelming majority of the time, just normally. In-betweens, no. In-betweens, I will just be adjusting, making little tweaks. If something is going linear, I'll just stop somewhere halfway, add a little bit of an arc to it, and move on. Okay, totally unnecessary, and that's when you would definitely jump out of the C set, and that's why it started getting annoying, because my workflow didn't allow for non-full body keys on breakdowns and in-betweens. Okay, if you're animating with tempo, meaning you're getting those golden poses in on the frames that they should be, and you've already worked out and you've found that really interesting timing, then there's never going to be a point where you're just like, you feel like in the middle of the ocean without a raft, not being able to key on every single controller, because you're past that point already if you're blocking with tempo. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Animation with Tempo lecture. Okay? So this all comes down to workflow. It sounds to me that you are used to, this is a direct answer to the question, it sounds to me you're used to C-sets and the full bodiness of what you get out of them, which makes your animation kind of staccato and kind of full body, and it forces you to go back in and really decide by deleting mostly, how long these keys are going to be, lasting on each part of the body. And I can see that as being a kind of a really tough way to work, but being used to it, I would suggest to you to maybe use C sets and key all the controls on when you are making a pose, key all the controls on that frame and sort of start loosening up as you go along. Try animating with tempo and try using your quick select sets. Give them another chance before you go back to C sets. I think in the end, of course, there are workflows that are better and worse for individuals, but I do think that you can argue that there are just some workflows that are not as good as others. And I think on a long enough timeline and with enough practice, that using quick select sets over C sets is going to lead you to a place where you at least understand your animation better right when you're done posing, and it's not a moment of discovery and like trying to figure out what you have to do to clean it up, like it is with C sets. Okay, that was a great question. Thanks for sending it in. Webmaster@kennyroy.com is where you send your questions and get them answered in a video just like this one. It's been a blast. I'm going to go before I choke. Thanks a lot. I'm Kenny Roy. Good luck with your animation. As always, rock on.